Welcome to Andy D. Cole's podcast. Please like, share and subscribe.
Welcome to Andy D. Cole's podcast. Press like and subscribe.
Welcome to Andy D. Cole's. Sit back and enjoy. As we dive deeper down into the rabbit hole and into the unknown.
Hello, welcome to the show. We have a full house tonight, except Tommy's probably at another birthday. No, he's going to be a few weeks before he comes on, so that's it. Welcome, Dave. How do you pronounce your surname?
It's a difficult one, I know. As a Hodrien.
Hodrien, right.
Yeah, that's
I keep getting it wrong, so... But,
that's all right, you've been called all sorts of different surnames over the years, so it's fine.
Yeah, nothing like that. Right, so we are going to be talking pretty much UFOs and abductee cases and everything there is pretty much to do with UFOs. So I met Dave, was it last August, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Awakening.
Boulders in Manchester, the Awakening. So we had a bit of a chat there. I did want to see his UFOWAVE game, but it actually sold out of every single one of them. And was it the demo version as well that you ended up selling as well?
We ended up selling the demo version and also my wife's copy of the game as well, which she wasn't too happy about. I was able to.
Well, that's a good shout.
That's another replacement.
It's good that you managed to sell them all, because you were saying you wasn't sure how it was going to go, and it's like literally gone.
Yeah, it totally depends. Like some places we've gone to, there's barely been any sales of it, and other places, but there's quite a lot of people at Awakening and everything, and sort of a component of sort of younger people interested in the subject, and yeah, amongst them were many gamers who were pretty impressed with what I'd put together.
Yeah, cool. So, do you want to talk about that first for those who don't know what it is?
Yeah, course, I don't know what it is, and I want to know now.
No problem at all.
You really do.
So, so as a UFO investigator for 16 years and the chairman of Birmingham UFO Group, one of my other interests outside of the world of ufology is board and card gaming. Absolutely love tabletop gaming with my family and friends. I've always liked that kind of direct interaction that you get from that. And especially in this world that we live in today, where everything's electronic, and I play a lot of video games as well, but you don't get that sort of direct contact with just being around a table. And so with that in mind, what I wanted to do was make a game themed entirely on the UFO subject. And it was an idea that, going back years now, maybe even 10 years, where I first come up with this kind of concept of doing this. And it became my midlife crisis, some would say. It was a passion project. Essentially, I put together the idea, because there's many games out there. There's actually thousands of games out there, but most of them don't make the high street shops. But if you go onto specialist websites, there's games on pretty much every subject under the sun, right? And there's already many games out there which mention aliens, might have sort of flying saucers and this sort of thing. A lot of the time, they're kind of little green men with ray guns and this sort of thing. And what I wanted to do was make a more authentic game, one that was entirely based on the actual subject and contained lots of elements of the real subject in it. And I decided on a card game. They're kind of easier to go with because I've never made a game before. and it was advised that out of the two, go with the card game because it's easier components and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then I had the choice of whether to take it down a sort of deadly serious route or a more sort of fun, family-friendly sort of route, and I chose the latter. Now, I've gone with a sort of cartoon art style with the game to sort of make it more accessible, and it's also family friendly, so it's suitable for sort of older children as well as adults to play. But it's absolutely loaded with aspects of the real subject through and through, and it's a strategic card game for 1 to 6 players and sort of age 8 and up. And a resource gathering game where you actually play as an alien species. So rather than sort of fight the aliens, so in a lot of these games out there, the aliens will be kind of portrayed as the bad guys, and you'll be trying to stop them from an invasion or whatever. I wanted to flip that on its head, and in the game, you actually take control of an actual alien species, all based on actual types or species, if you will, that I've investigated and am aware of over the years from actual contact cases. So all the species you can play as. And some of the main ones are in there, and you're going to heard of, obviously, the Greys and the Nordics or humanoids or Pleiadians, as some people call them, as mantids. There's even the hybrids in the game, so half human, half alien hybrids. So there's things in the game that have never been covered before in a board or card game, and aspects of the subjects that make it, without a doubt, the most authentic portrayal of the subject ever seen in a tabletop game. The artwork, I've actually got it here. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that reflecting in the light, but there it is.
Oh, that
is UFOWAVE, and
up there.
So you
there you
go.
I love the artwork. Thank you.
So this artwork has actually been done by an actual experiencer, a genuine abductee from New York. And there's a lovely little backstory behind how I got in touch with them. So, thinking way back when I was a wee lad, I was at university, so it's over 20 years ago now. I was at university, and I came across his artwork online, just random pieces on Google, and I realized even back then he was drawing all these aliens and things in his artwork, and it was very obvious that he knew a lot about the subject. But I had no idea that he'd had actual experiences himself yet. So but I liked his kind of quirky art style, and some of the things he was putting in his images, was obviously kind of resonated very well with me. So moving forward, I come to design the game, and I decided to take it down this route with the cartoon artwork. And I think, I wonder if I can get him to do the artwork. But I had no idea who this guy was. I saw him like 20 years ago on the internet. So I went back and I did this kind of deep delve on Google, and eventually, after checking page after page after page, I literally found one of his art pieces, doing particular searches, managed to find one of his art pieces, and lo and behold, his signature's down the bottom corner of it, But it wasn't even his full name. It was like his first initial and his surname, But using that, I was then able to track him down, and I found out that he's still an active artist in New York. Checking his website online, there was other drawings he'd done, and he'd also incorporated, you could see he was still incorporating aspects of the UFO subject, even in his more recent art pieces. And I reached out to him, just as we're doing right now on video cam, and just told him, look, I'm a UFO investigator from the UK. I want to make a card game about UFOs, and I'd love you to do the artwork. Would you be up for that? And he accepted. I'm very pleased to say. So,
that's pretty good going, that. That's a lot of detective work.
Absolutely. But we got there. And it was great to work with him. And also, he'd never done artwork for any game or anything like that before. He'd just done straight up art pieces, But he was overwhelmed. I kind of reached out to him. And it was that in that initial discussion with him that I found that he'd had actual experiences himself, which I think is great because it's kind of a nice little selling point for the game that the actual artwork's being done by somebody who's seen things firsthand and experiences. It's been an incredible design process, countless hours of effort and play testing to put it all together. But we got there with it. I released the game via Kickstarter, the crowdfunding website, a number of years ago. And that was a success. We reached our goal, and I was able to get the game manufactured. And then since then, it's been available commercially, and we've had it out for sale on Amazon. Only in the UK. Unfortunately, it's very, very hard selling internationally as a sole trader. There's lots of copyrights. You've got all sorts of things you've got to take into account, and the amount of money it takes to ship things abroad. unless you're a very sizable company and already established worldwide, it's very, very difficult breaking into that sort of market on to that sort of scale. So we kept it in-house and kept it UK based. But many of the backers on Kickstarter were from all around the world, many from the States, etc.
Oh, right. That's not still good going though.
Yeah, yeah. It was never designed as a money-making exercise. Never has been. I view it, and it's the same for everything I do in the world of ufology. It's never been about any kind of personal fame or fortune or anything like that. For me, it's just a kind of passion and drive for getting the truth out about this subject, because it's something I've been really, really interested in since childhood. And when I had the opportunity to become an active UFO investigator, I readily accepted that. But I could have been an investigator for many, many years before that. But it was the creation of Birmingham UFO Group that was my driving force to become an investigator.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you for the backstory. Any questions before we move on? Nicole, Sarah?
I was busy looking up the game because now I'm on.
Right.
No, I've seen the game in person. It's great. I love that. I do love the design. It's such good quality as well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, yeah.
It's a really good quality.
We've got a playmat with it and everything. We've got that here. I don't know if you can see the playmat. Let me see if we can. There we go. It's a pretty sizable playmat upside down.
Yeah.
There we go. So that's
Got a lot of
kind
work into it.
That's better than a cardboard board, isn't it?
I've got a bit of a thing for sort of retro. Maybe it's because I was a kind of an 80s child or something. I don't know. But I love the kind of neon blue sort of glow. Yeah. So we had that incorporated in. And if you have a look up close, there's all sorts of artwork in the background, different craft types, beings, aspects, alien writing, all sorts of things.
Really good attention to detail.
Absolutely, yeah. And I wanted to make a kind of quality product. I wanted something that could go out there and stand alone alongside all the many, many other games that were already in existence. And I designed it not just for people interested in the UFO subject, but something that you could kind of pick up and just play anyway. Even if you didn't know anything about UFOs, you don't need to sort of know the subject. But if you do know the subject, you'll gain so much from it, because you'll notice many, many sort of aspects of it and this sort of thing. Oh, that's the Board Game Geek link there.
There you go. There's a link.
Yeah, and we got some good reviews on it when it went out and everything. So sent it out for reviews all around the world as part of the Kickstarter process.
Yeah, best way though, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's the only way you're going to find out whether it's going to work or not. So
yeah, indeed. Yeah, it was difficult because when we launched, it was during the lockdown, right? And a lot of people were like, "Wow, you're actually releasing a game during the lockdown. That's a risky play." Yeah, back then, we didn't know how long the lockdown was going to last.
No.
I was thinking, well, this could go on for like forever. Yeah. So thank God it didn't, right?
But it felt like it, didn't it?
Yeah, it felt like forever. Yeah. But the difficult thing is
one of the best times to release a game in lockdown.
Well, it was the best time for all the design work at home and sort of playing it with the family. But what about playing it with other people elsewhere? So when releasing a game, one of the bits of advice I got is kind of share it around, take it down to sort of gaming shops, and arrange days where people can come and check out the game, right?
Yeah.
But we were trapped. We're in the house. We're not allowed to do that yet, and that wasn't a viable prospect. So what I actually did, I made a virtual version of the card game. There's a particular app on the Steam store which has a lot of kind of virtual board and card games, and I essentially programmed an electronic version of the game and then was demoing it to people through that. And some of those people, I believe, went and backed the products as a result. But yeah, it was a crazy battle, and I've learned lots of kind of pros and cons of game creation through that experiment, shall we say? And that's all it's been, really, is an experiment. I didn't know what was going to happen with it, how far it was going to go, but I'm very proud of what I've put together with it. I've had lots of good feedback off people who say, genuinely, not just people who I know as friends who, might be sort of like, "Oh, it's really good, Dave," honest. Yeah. But just random strangers who've come and played it. And we actually, around the same time that we kickstarted, we actually took it to the UK Games Expo, which is the biggest tabletop gaming. It's like an entire weekend of gaming, essentially. And we booked a table for that. So many, many people got to sort of play it around that time and then could go and back it live. That was the kind of concept, and it worked for us. But yeah, and so as I said, the game's absolutely filled with aspects of the subject. And to kind of give you a kind of an overview of what you do in the game. So it's a resource gathering game. and there's a line of cards which represents what you can see from your craft. So you have to imagine you're sort of flying around and you're looking around the landscape, and what can you see down on the ground and up in the air? And what you can see is kind of potential activities that can be performed, for example, sort of abductions or landings. You gain points from performing those activities by taking those cards. But then you've also got humans down there who are guarding the activities, so the military and the men in black and this sort of thing. And they're out to kind of stop you, and they will actually block you from taking the cards. And you use your powers. The cards in your hand are a mix of kind of craft cards and power cards, and you use your power cards to manipulate the game in various ways. So some of the powers might allow you to change the order of the cards on the line and move kind of humans who are guarding that card away elsewhere. Other ones are kind of more offensive cards that you would use against your opponents directly. So you have to imagine there's you and these other species up there, and you're all competing for the same sort of resources in the area, the same activities. And there's also energy that you can swallow up for bonus points and this sort of thing. But cool. I kept the rules kind of, I think that the rules are sort of easy to understand, but the card game mechanic, essentially the way that the cards interact with one another, is extremely rare, if not entirely unique. I've played literally hundreds of card and ball games over the years, and I've never played another game that had the same mechanics, and that's what I wanted to do. So it went through about 8 different versions of the game until I kind of settled on one that I thought was genuinely, didn't feel like another game, because I didn't want people to say, oh, he's just gone taken it and reskinned it with UFOs and he's just putting it out there. I wanted people to be like, wow, this is genuinely different from other card games, and I believe I've achieved that. And
you've never played the same game twice?
No, absolutely not. No. So it's got its own unique mechanics to it, meaning that it's not like any other games out there, like directly. There's a few games out there that are a bit similar, but nothing directly the same. And also, the variety of every single time you play, it's very, very different. I've played it over 100 times now, of course, maybe even over 200 times, I don't know. But every single time, it's great fun to play. You never know what powers you're going to get and when to use them. And there's a lot of sort of tactics involved. But it's at the same time, it's kind of easy enough to sort of teach an older child as well to kind of get involved. And some people have even said that it's a good way of potentially teaching people about the UFO subject, like a way to kind of get them into the subject, and they can learn a lot about the subject just from playing the game and seeing what's on the cards.
Yeah, I was talking to someone the other day, and they said exactly the same thing.
Yes.
So, and everyone that I spoke to about the game, I'm not just saying it, but no one's given any bad feedback. It's all been positive.
That's great. That's great to hear.
Yeah. So well done.
Mission success.
That's it. That's what it's about.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna have to look at that and end up buying it for myself. I've got
I
can't not now.
Yeah, we can meet up and we'll play some games together. I'll teach you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, because you're not that far away from me, really, are you? I'm only in Northampton.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah,
so
I travel up all the time. I've investigated cases from around Northampton before. So. I've investigated cases from everywhere before, pretty much. You know, I mean, as you get further afield from Birmingham, the cases drop off, right? So there's lots of cases around Birmingham, and if you map out all my cases, which I did once a number of years ago, I tried to create an interactive map, where you could kind of click on and it would take you to the case reports that I've written. But unfortunately, the website that I built that through, it went bust after a while and shut down. I lost it all. And it took absolutely ages to put together. But that map, that interactive map, it just made Birmingham look like this crazy UFO hotspot, like all this hive of activity. Now, it's not at all, I think that if I lived in, say, Gloucester, I think I could make Gloucester look like the biggest UFO hotspot. Yeah, and this is the kind of, with the public, they'll see that an area has a lot of sightings at once, and they'll be like, "Oh, it must be a UFO hotspot." Well, that's nonsense. I believe that this is going on everywhere all the time, and it all depends on where people are investigating, which makes areas look like hotspots.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, I suppose if you're concentrating on a particular area and like finding out what's gone on there, it's going to look like there's a lot going on in that one place.
Absolutely.
So you're going to get spots like that all over, even though it is widespread.
Indeed.
Like you said, it's going to look intense in one place.
Yeah, but also, of course, I mean, there's many aspects to what makes a hotspot,
Yeah.
So also population density. Yeah. So obviously there's a lot of cases, a lot of sightings around London because the amount of people that live in London, and also how big London is an area. Of course, is absolutely ginormous. It's like a small country, isn't it itself? So it's but there are some genuine places that I think may be actual UFO hotspots. There's the infamous Bonnie Bridge up in Scotland, which I actually did a skywatch at once. I was up there giving a conference, giving a talk at a conference up there, and I arranged a skywatch in conjunction with Malcolm Robinson, the UFO researcher from Scotland. We arranged a joint skywatch, and about 50 or so people turned up for it, and it was brilliant. But unfortunately, we got good old Scottish weather. So while we were out there, we couldn't really see much because of the horizontal rain that was hitting us in the face. Horrendous. But many people turned up for it and got rained on a bit, and you couldn't really see much. I remember getting interviewed on TV or whatever. So there are the cameras, and I'm just getting drenched with all this rain and just standing there.
Jesus. Well, was it worth it?
It was great. It was great actually going to Bonnie Bridge and doing a skywatch up there, and I got to meet Billy Buchanan, the governor from the area, who's widely promoted the idea of Bonnie Bridge being a UFO hotspot. He was one of the ones that brought together many of the people who had sightings up there. And started to kind of give them credibility and say, look, we're not going to laugh at you. You know, we genuinely believe you might have seen something.
Cool. Oh. Yeah, so we're kind of doing a skywatch on Saturday.
Oh, fantastic.
So I'm just getting like between 6 and 9 like what we're doing now, but instead of us being on camera, just pointing it up at the sky from different locations around the world, just doing it for an hour and see if we pick anything up. So same thing, it doesn't really matter on the weather conditions because UFOs and that don't really care what the weather's doing.
That's absolutely correct.
If they're going to be moving around, then I suppose you've more chance to get one during a storm than play a day anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, if there's bad weather, you know, like I was talking about the rain. Obviously, we had heavy cloud cover. Right? There was another one I did in the Clent Hills, which a number of years ago, and it was thick fog, which was it was amazingly spooky. Yeah, it was like X-Files going through the fog with our torches. Yeah, you couldn't see anything. You couldn't see like about a meter in front of you, let alone the sky. But it was great. It was really atmospheric and it was great fun. But, you know, obviously the idea of actually seeing anything significant on that actual watch was pretty low, I thought. Great fun, though. We usually do about sort of 2 or 3. We tend to kind of do them occasionally, arranged through the group. No sort of set schedule for that. This year, we're actually arranging a trip to Vanishing Forest, a camping trip.
Oh, when's that?
So that's going to be in end of May to start of June. And it's arranged by both my group, Birmingham UFO Group, and also Uprising UFO and Paranormal. So we're doing a kind of joint weekend up there where we're going to be walking around the woods and seeing all the sights. And after dark skywatches, exploring the forest, etc. So,
where was that? What forest?
We're going down to Vanishing Forest in Suffolk, where they had the infamous case in 1980, one of the UK's most prominent and incredible incidents that's ever taken place. Yeah,
I was there last year with Alex Lovelock.
Oh, fantastic!
I'll just say, I've told it loads of times. People sick, but was where they've chopped all the trees down. There used to be loads of trees. There's just a big opening now. I was stood with me. K2 meter, digital one, just put it up on the tree and just moving it slowly up and down on the tree, and the numbers were going up. It was picking up some sort of energy, and there's nothing around there.
Interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting area for activity. So I've dealt with over the years. I've actually had independent people contact me about UFO sightings that they've had in the area of Vanishing Forest, totally unrelated to what happened in 1980. Yeah. But there's activities still in the area.
Yeah, well, me and Alex, we've both seen 2 lots of 2 orange orbs going across the ground within probably 5 minutes, and we were stood at is it the official or the unofficial UFO landing spot where it's right on the field where the fence is now and the tree down. Yeah, we stood apparently on the exact spot where it landed.
Right.
So
Wow.
Yeah,
You were able to get out there onto the field, yeah?
We couldn't get to the field, but
Yes.
we got to where the fence was.
That's right.
Without trying to climb through it, I would have got through. We wouldn't got back out.
They're probably fed up with people trying to get out onto the field.
Yeah, but we got as close as we could to where it was, and that's where we seen total four orange orbs, probably about tennis ball size, but there was flat. It was like on the ground, 2 dimensional. Well, there weren't all. There's more circles than orbs. Thinking about it.
Have you said this before? Have you said this before, or am I thinking of another time where you?
No, I've said it before.
Because I was like, I don't remember you saying it about there, but maybe I just
it's just like that, but round, and it was just zigzagging across the floor, and it happened twice. And we thought it was I thought it was a reflection of Alex's watch. Then I realised that'd be pointing up at the sky, unless he stood upside down with his watch pointing at the floor. It wouldn't have happened.
We actually had some orange orb sightings in 2022 on one of our Skywatchers as well. It was at Cannock Chase. We've done a number of Skywatchers around the Cannock Chase area over the years because, again, it's known for activity. And we've seen some really interesting things while we've been out there. Not all unexplained stuff. We've seen helicopters flying dark because they use it as a military training ground. So we've seen a helicopter flying without any lights on, which is a bit bizarre. We've seen the ISS, really amazingly clear sighting of the ISS. And it showed me how much the ISS can look like it's in the atmosphere. It was this bright, glowing white orb, and it really genuinely looked like it was in the atmosphere rather than out in space.
Wow.
And it was only when we had an ISS tracker with us and we were able to track it, and we were like, that's the ISS. Went around the Earth, exactly 2 hours later, still on the Skywatch, it comes around again.
Straight back again.
So, we knew it was definitely that. But it looked very, very impressive. It looked so clear and so low down. In 2022, we went to Cannock Chase, again with Uprising. And there was a couple of orange orb sightings around the same sort of time of night. Now, annoyingly, I actually wasn't there to see them because a number of us had gone off to there. We were right near the military cemetery, and we decided there's a military cemetery in the area, and some of us on Skywatch, we wanted to go and explore the outskirts of that and walk around it, and see it after dark and that, just out of interest, and just walk through the woods. So we left the kind of area where we were holding the Skywatch and went off for that. And it was during that time when half of us weren't there that the sightings,
typical, isn't it?
And I only kind of found out later on because some of the people who'd seen them, they'd kind of gone home by the time we made it back to the site. So the following day, they messaged me, and at first I thought it was one object that was seen by numerous people. But after interviewing them about what they'd seen, we found out that one of them was kind of to the north and the other one was just like completely different compass direction. So unless the thing had kind of jumped within the space of seconds to another part of the sky, which I'm not saying it couldn't have done, right? And now the one that was seen, one of the directions, it was kind of sort of very erratic maneuvers backwards and forwards. One of the individuals who saw that was one of our other investigators, James Brody, one of the individuals who investigates for Birmingham UFO Group, alongside myself. Very, very good witness, and numerous other people there also saw it. And it wasn't performing kind of gradual drift maneuvers like you might see a Chinese lantern or something, because a lot of people hear the word orange orb and they're like, oh, it's a Chinese lantern, or oh, it's a flare somebody's launched. But it wasn't doing anything like that. It just kind of moved around erratically and then vanished. Now the other person who saw it in the other direction, they saw it perform this sudden sort of sharp arc downwards towards the trees, just like that, in a sharp arc, and then it's just gone. So just odd. It couldn't be. It wasn't particularly impressive. It's just kind of glowing orbs of light. Orange color both, but unexplained essentially. So
So when you went to the cemetery, was it the German cemetery you went to near Pie Tower? Did you get? Because we went in. I think it was August, September.
Yes.
Did you get any sense of anything going on, or
we didn't know? On our watch last year, we actually went into one of the two cemeteries. We found out it was actually open to the public after dark.
Yes.
There's two cemeteries alongside one another.
Yeah, you've got the one at the top, which is the English, and the German one with all the memorials
That's
just at
right.
the back
And,
of it.
and we were able to go inside that. We had a walk around after dark. We were very respectful. We weren't, everybody there or anything like that. It was just interesting to see after dark. It was actually quite serene. It wasn't. I didn't find it particularly sort of creepy or anything. It was quite serene seeing all the gravestones after dark like that. And but no, we didn't sense anything then. Did you when you went there? Yeah.
No, we went after dark. I've
Yeah.
been a couple of times now, and there was 5 of us. A couple of people that are in the chat. The same thing. We was just walking around, like making sure we wasn't being disrespectful or anything, and just having a lot. I think I did TikTok live on it for about half an hour, 40 minutes, and I didn't get any feeling of anything about. We've seen couple of things, but it could have been anything.
Yeah,
there's nothing definite. It's like we've seen some lights, could have been planes, helicopter, drones, whatever. But they weren't there. It wasn't there long enough for us to work anything out.
Yeah.
Spoke to the others who came as well. They didn't really get anything from that. But there's other stuff in different parts of Cannock during the day before and a bit the following day.
Yes.
Because we didn't camp because it's illegal to camp in Cannock, so we stayed over. Shall we say? Before I get arrested.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, straight away.
Yeah,
but it was good. So I've been to Cannock quite a few times.
Lovely area.
I think
I've never been.
You need to go. The last 2 times we went.
On my list.
Last 2 times went to near Slitting Mill, around that area. And first time it was a washout. It was raining that bad. It was like sitting in a waterfall. Couldn't do anything. Couldn't do any recording or nothing. It was just torrential rain. And the second time we went, there's only 2 of us that could make it, and we had some. Like we could hear noises and chatter, and we were staying in one of the lads' bivvies. Sober Carper, who's in the chat, there's me and him. We met up because he's from down that way, and we could every time he fell asleep, I could hear this chattering, and I'd listen to it, and I'd wake him up, and as soon as he woke up, stopped. Every single. I thought, I'm not waking him up again.
Playing with you.
It just got so annoying. Joe, when you want somebody else to witness it.
You always want that. You always want.
It wasn't happening.
Yeah. And the UFO sighting I had, which is still unexplained to this day, happened in 2009 down in Warminster in Wiltshire, which is again a known hotspot. Yeah, so since they had the what's known as the Warminster Flap in the late 70s, and that was where many people in that village saw things in the surrounding area. But there's been sightings ever since, and it's a lot of sky watching goes on. Maybe that's why there's more sightings down there, because there's lots of people looking for things. But in 2009 there was a conference down there called the Weird Paranormal Conference. It wasn't just UFOs, it was ghosts and psychic stuff and that sort of thing as well. And I'd gone down there for the weekend, and halfway between the 2 days of the conference, they arranged a sky watch on Cradle Hill, just north of the town, and it's and very, very famous for going up for sky watching. And it was a lovely clear night, and we're up there, and it's about 11:30 at night, and it's a beautiful night, all the stars out, and there had been about sort of, again, 50 people at start, TV cameras, the works, but by 11:30, a lot of the people had gone back to their hotels or whatever. I'd say there was about 20 or so people left up on the hill. And somebody sort of called out and said, "Oh, there's a jet coming in." So the Cradle Hill's right near some MOD-owned land. There's a military base kind of quite close by to it. So you kind of expect to see military craft up in the sky for the evening. But we hadn't really seen anything, to be fair, military or otherwise. You could hear civilian jets on the horizon, miles and miles away. Kind of coming over. But anyway, somebody said there's a jet coming in. So we look over Warminster, and sure enough, there's this dark object. It's sizable, like a small aircraft sort of size, I suppose. We couldn't really see the shape of it. Nobody, myself included, had decent sort of night vision with us, so we couldn't kind of take a good, clear look at it and get its exact shape. But it was sizable, whatever it was. And it had a white glowing light on it, just a static white glowing light, no strobing. no other lights on it. Yeah, which straight away I'm thinking that's weird. Where's red, green, that sort of thing. Normal I should expect to see, yeah. And there's no strobe on it or anything. Anyway, as it comes nearer, all of a sudden this white light just kind of flares up, really, really bright. Boom! It's up like this, and everybody's like, "What's going on here?" Yeah? We're all checking it out. Yeah? It stays kind of brightly lit for a couple of seconds, and then it dies back down again. And at that point, there was another light on it. It was kind of a small, dark turquoisey light, right, sort of somewhere between blue and green, like a dark turquoise, very strange coloured light. I was like, I've never seen a light like that in a normal aircraft yet. Anyway, as it gets nearer, we realise the thing's completely silent. Yeah, and it wasn't that high up. I'd say it was a few hundred feet up or something above the hill. It wasn't like thousands of feet up. And of course, sound travels really well after dark, doesn't it? So if it was making any kind of engine noise, you would have expected to hear it. Yeah, but this thing was silent, and it came in over the hill. And every few seconds, this white light would kind of pulse up on it. It would kind of stay lit for a few seconds and then die back down. Really weird. It came in over the hill, formed this kind of arcing turn, and then went away into the distance. Now, I interviewed about sort of 10 or so people who were up there that night to add to the kind of case report, and looked into it, spoke with numerous kind of aviation experts, military experts, etc. And they confirmed that the lighting configuration didn't match any known kind of military or civilian craft, or it wasn't a military drone or something like that. And it's explained essentially. So therefore, UFO, right? I can't say it was alien or anything because I didn't see any occupants, yeah. But in the majority of cases, we don't see the occupants, do they?
Yeah.
It was so, yeah. That's the only time I've ever seen anything where I was genuinely thought, yeah, this could be something really unusual.
Very interesting.
That was within months of becoming the chairman of Birmingham UFO Group. Just coincidence or not, you decide. I've been chairman for about 2 months of the group, yeah. So the group had actually started a couple of years before. I became the investigator for Birmingham UFO Group quite soon after its inception, because the original chairman, I believe, they wanted somebody to kind of investigate for the group, and
like hands-on sort of thing.
Yeah. And they could see I had a big passion for it. It started with a UFO case that had come our way. The witnesses of that case were coming down the group meetings, yeah, and they were talking about this UFO that they'd literally seen really recently before. And I was like, this is fascinating. And it had happened in Kings Winford, an area of Birmingham. So I was like, this is really good. I wonder if we could go along with the guys who saw this and go to the location where they saw it with them. That'd be really interesting, right? And the original chairman of the group, Craig and Mark, they kind of put me to one side and said, do you want to write this up as a report for the group? Do you want to investigate it? So I gratefully accepted that. And I didn't tell the witnesses at the time I was going to do this, but when we were there on the night, I interviewed them individually and got them to draw what they'd seen. Yeah. And it was essentially a black octagonal shaped craft with numerous white lights and a kind of central light. And then it kind of came in over this clearing and sort of slowed down a little bit and then kind of moved off. From their drawings and the individual interviews I held with them, I had absolutely no doubt that they'd all seen a real object. It was quite sizable. It wasn't like a remote controlled model or a quad drone or anything like that. So that kind of became my first case. And it was quite a good case, and it still stands as quite a decent case even today, even after investigating hundreds more, because of the fact you had these 4 witnesses, and I got them to draw independently without any warning that they'd have to do that. And it's quite obvious they were drawing the same object, and a really interesting shape as well. You don't get many octagonal shaped UFOs.
No.
Yeah.
So it was a good one. So that became my first official investigation for the group. So from that point onwards, I was the investigator. But in 2009, essentially, the original chairman, it was a kind of short-term thing for them. Many people with this subject, they'll follow it for a while, and then they'll kind of get bored of it or whatever and move on to other things in their life. For me, this has always been a constant. And I find that a little odd, actually, because I think after you started looking into the subject and you realise that there's something going on with it, I can't see how that can't fail to be continuously fascinating. I don't know. But some people, they move on from it. So they passed on the running of the group to me, and they figured correct that I would keep going, and I have been ever since.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, impressed.
Yeah.
Have you guys any questions yet? Before? No? Just listening.
No,
it's fine.
I got one. What would you say is your most memorable, like your strangest case that you've looked into?
Yeah, that would have to be the Droitwich abduction case from 2010, I think. Now it's an incredible case. The lady involved had lots of experiences. So with contact cases, I've become kind of some would say a bit of an expert on the subject. I don't claim to be an expert, right? But I've looked into several hundred contact cases around the world now. So I've got a kind of deep knowledge of the many aspects of the contact phenomena and alternative kind of mundane explanations for some of those aspects as well. So I'll happily tell people where I don't believe they're experiencing contact. I'll say, yeah, something else, sleep paralysis or whatever. And sometimes there are cases like that, and you get these cases come to you. But in other cases, you start to look into it and you're like, wow, this, something's definitely going on here. It certainly seems like a real case. Now, this lady had experiences going right back to her childhood, but it was a couple of abduction cases that she'd had within the space of a week towards the end of 2009. I investigated the case in very early 2010. That's when it came away. And it was an incredible case. And one of the reasons it's incredible is that they have potentially captured the second of those two abductions on video camera. So they had a camera set up at the time. And
I've got the video ready if you want me to play it.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I've just got it up. And
yeah, let's not play it straight
Let me
away.
try and do this.
Let's
play share screen.
Let's play it at the right point. Yeah, let's go over the first abduction first, because you need kind of context with this. The video, is a small part of a very big case, right? It's and a lot of people kind of jump on the video and they're like, "Wow, the video, the sensationalism." Yeah, I've lost.
Can you guys see it?
Oh, is he? Has he gone? Hello?
No, he has it at the bottom. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Here we go.
It anyway.
Andy.
There. Okay. I was sharing it. Okay.
All right. We're waiting to play the video.
Yeah,
right?
if you want to talk through it.
Yeah, not this second. Can we pause that a second, Annie?
Yeah.
Can he hear you? Oh yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he back? He's back in the room.
Back.
Awesome. So I was trying to tell you. Right. Okay. Let me go over what I just said again. Yeah. Okay. This is a very big case, and the video is only a small part of that case. Yeah. And a lot of people jump on the video aspect of this case. They're like, "Wow, an abduction caught on camera!" Right. First of all, I don't claim to say that it definitely shows an abduction on camera. I want to put that out there. Okay. I'll tell you how it fits into the case, and I'll also give you the pros and cons for that video. Okay, I never hold anything back.
Yes.
I never have with this subject, and I definitely don't jump to conclusions regarding certain things either. Very often, you have to be very cautious. But I wanted to kind of talk through what happened, and then we'll get to the video, and then you can show it at that point of the case if that's okay, Andy. Because I lost track of the number of TV companies and who've contacted me to ask whether they can have the rights to the footage, and it's not and it's not mine to give. It's the witnesses,
right?
And the witness is confidential, okay? And I respect that confidentiality to the letter. So if a witness contacts me and they don't want me to kind of put out their name and that sort of thing, so I don't, So it is what it is. So anyway, let's talk about what happened, okay? So the first of these abduction experiences, they're quite fascinating, both of them, because they've got some of the kind of key aspects that happen with contact cases, some really, really interesting elements to them. I guess first of all, a bit of background. Okay, so the lady lived with her family on the outskirts of Droitwich, a town just on the outskirts of Birmingham, essentially in the Midlands, and the house was right on the edge. So it had some farmers' fields in the area around. And lovely lady. I met the family numerous times to go over everything in depth, and I've got absolutely no problem in kind of validating her as a real witness. I genuinely believe what they went over with me was taking place. There was a lot to this case, but we're going to focus on these two specific abductions. So how did the first abduction occur? Well, it was one particular night. It was about one or so in the morning, and she wasn't sleeping very well. She was just lying there in her room, husband asleep next to her, and she's got a couple of daughters. So she got up out of bed to just go through and just check up on her daughters, So she goes into the bedroom. They're also fast asleep. But while she's in there, she happens to glance out of the window of her daughter's room. They didn't have curtains up or whatever; it's just open, and the view is essentially open farmers' fields with some kind of clumps of trees in the far distance. And over a cluster of these trees, she sees this orange oval shaped glowing thing, an object, yeah. And she first thinks that's a plane crashing or something on fire. But then she realizes it's moving too slowly, yeah. So she's watching this thing and it's kind of moving across the sky very slowly like this. And she thinks maybe it's a reflection. So she doesn't think, oh, it's an alien spacecraft, right? She's not going to jump to conclusions. Yeah, she was thinking, oh, is it a light reflecting in the window from inside the room? So she's looking around, looking for electronics, and she can't find it. And then she grabs a piece of paper and puts that up on the glass, and she could still see it through the paper. So she knows it's coming from outside. Yeah, it wasn't kind of reflecting from inside the room. So she turns around to look at her daughter once more, and when she looks back, the object's jumped position, right? And it's got to have been the same object, yeah? It's no longer in the distance, but now it's about 100 yards from her house, and it's down over the field, yeah? And she described it as a long bank of very brightly glowing lights. There was an object behind the lights, but she couldn't really see them because of the glow coming off these lights. So whatever it is, it's very, very close to the house and kind of quite low down over the field. Now, I mean, think about that situation. Yeah, it's the middle of the night. You wake up, you see something like that. It's in the distance. All of a sudden, this unknown glowing object is right near your house in the middle of the night. What would you do? Yeah, you'd probably wake up your family, right? You'd be like, "Look at this, girls. Check out this." You won't wake your husband up. Have a look at this. Maybe you'd be scared. Yeah, you'd go and hide in a cupboard somewhere. You'd be like, "Oh, I don't want anything to do with that." Maybe you'd ring somebody. Maybe you'd ring the local police force, or maybe you'd be like, oh, it's a UFO, and you might track down a group like Birmingham UFO group or whatever. Anyway, she doesn't do any of those things. Yeah, you know what she does? She accepts it and goes back to bed. And thinking back to it, yeah, she didn't know why she acted like that, but that's a common aspect. And you may have, I don't know whether you've had experiences over the years talk on this, you probably have. It's a very common aspect of the subject is that people, when they're experiencing contact, they act very, very kind of complacent to it, like it's an everyday thing for them. Yeah. And like it's very, very, a very kind of feeling of familiarity. Yeah. But with that familiarity comes complacence. So they just treat it like it's an everyday thing, like it's nothing to worry about. Nothing to see here. Go back to bed. Yeah. So she does. Yeah. With this object. So she goes and lies down in bed. Now she doesn't think she drops off to sleep, right? She doesn't think she drops off to sleep anyway. She's there. All of a sudden, she realizes she's no longer in her bedroom. She kind of opens her eyes. It's black all around her. It's just pitch black. She's in a lying down position still, yeah. The only thing that she can see is her elder daughter up by her shoulder, kneeling down alongside her, right? And her daughter leans into her closely and says, don't worry, Mum, it's your turn next. They aren't going to hurt you.
Ooh.
And she's like, what? And she doesn't know what her daughter means by this, yeah? And she's going to start asking a question.
Freak me out the most.
All of a sudden, there's this kind of rushing type sensation. She said it felt like almost being pulled down a tunnel or something. It's just a kind of rushing sensation. And all of a sudden, she's in a new location. Now, this is really interesting. She said she found herself in a lying down position, free floating in an area, and there was glowing yellow grid lines in kind of squares all around her, something like Tron or something, like glowing laser lines making squares everywhere she looked, so she could look around. She was largely paralyzed from the neck downwards, so she could still kind of move her head a bit like this and tilt around. But she couldn't look right over her shoulder or anything like that. Yeah, and she's lying down. She believes that she's unclothed. So she didn't have her night clothes on her anymore. She's unclothed and she can only move her head around a bit, and she can see these glowing grid lines. But she senses she's not alone. Yeah, she sensed the presence of a number of small figures there alongside her. She couldn't see them because she couldn't look around to them, but she knew. She didn't know why. She knows, but she sensed they were kind of short. Yeah, and there was also another one that was standing behind her left shoulder. You know, somebody's like, let's say somebody kind of walks up right behind you. Yeah, you know they're there. But
you can feel it. Yeah.
You could feel that. Yeah. So there was another one back here behind her left shoulder, but she couldn't look round to look at it. But she knew it was kind of there, standing behind her. And what happens is a kind of examination procedure of some kind. So she starts to feel the little things. They're putting their hands on her and they're moving down her body like this, or touching her. Yeah. And she actually had a bad back at the time, and she was very scared they were going to kind of touch her back, and it was going to hurt her. Now, in response to her having this kind of fear of them touching her back, she gets a message directly inside her mind. She hears a voice say, "Don't worry, we're not going to hurt your back." So they were actually essentially listening to her thoughts and then responding to her telepathically. So she didn't ask them a question or anything. They just responded with that in response to her fear of them touching her back. Yeah. Now, at this point, she starts to get frightened, because you wouldn't you? You're in this situation. You're, what's going on with this? Yeah. What is happening? And she starts to panic. And at this point, she feels the one behind her put its hand on her head. So she feels its hand on her head, and this sense of calm overcomes her. So she kind of calms right down and stops panicking so much. Now, I've had other, and this is one of the aspects, that only comes out through investigating this subject in depth again and again with people. So I've had other cases that have come to me where people have said exactly the same thing, put his hand on my head, but that's not something you would have seen kind of in X-Files or whatever. So these details, they'll only come out through the actual cases and talking with people in depth. So she calms right down, and they continue this examination procedure. Now, she can kind of look down her a bit like that, but she can't really see what's going on elsewhere. But all of a sudden, off to her left in the distance, this doorway opens, and it's got glowing white light pouring in it. It's like a rectangular kind of doorway kind of comes up like that. And standing in the doorway, she can see her son. So she's got a son as well, and he's quite a tall chap. He was, I'd say, was at least 6.5 foot high. So he dwarfed me. Really nice bloke, but really tall. Yeah. And he's standing there in this doorway, but he's not interacting with her at all. He's not coming to help her. He's just standing there staring at her, and she doesn't know why on earth he's there or why he's not coming to help her. Yeah, but that's what she saw. So this kind of examination procedure continues, and then there's this sort of sense of urgency she feels, almost like they're running over time and she shouldn't be there anymore. And she can hear chatter going on. She can't hear what they're sort of saying. They're not speaking in English, but she can hear sort of chittery, kind of chattery type noises. And then all of a sudden, bang, she's back in her bed, and she's up, and she kind of jumps up, and she's like, "What just happened?" She said it felt really, really vivid, like far more vivid than a nightmare would. Yeah. And she was like, "Really weird." She wakes up her husband, and she's like, and she starts to talk about what's just happened. Now her husband just puts it down to a bad dream. He's like, "Had a bad dream, go back to sleep." So she in the end, she kind of drops back off and lets him drop back off to sleep. In the morning, she checks the mirror, and she found a couple of bruises. There was kind of some bruises around her abdomen that she is pretty sure weren't there before. Some small roundish bruises around her abdomen. Now, she started to feel a couple of things following this. So first of all, very oddly, she felt like she was pregnant, and this kind of feeling kind of grew and grew until the point that she actually went to her GP, and her GP confirmed that she wasn't pregnant. And after that, that kind of feeling sort of subsided once she'd been told that she wasn't pregnant. But after this experience, she did initially, she also started to get more and more frightened about going to sleep in the bedroom. Yeah, well, you would, wouldn't you? Yeah. So she knew this thing had happened there. She put it down to not just a nightmare. It felt very, very real to her, and she didn't understand what had happened with it. She didn't know anything about contact or about the contact phenomena or anything like that. She hadn't looked into it. She knew that other weird stuff had gone on in her life previously, right? But she kind of put it to the back of her mind. It was kind of, oh, never mind that, because it didn't really fit in with her everyday life. Yeah, so she just kind of ignored it and pushed it to the back of her mind. But this was kind of too big to ignore. This thing that had happened. It was really weird, and she couldn't understand the strange light that she'd seen before it. She remembered that and all that, and it seemed kind of linked with what had happened. But she didn't know why. So her husband happened to make security cameras for a living. He used to put together these security cameras, and when I went around there, they had like stacks and stacks of security cameras, that they were selling or whatever, building up and selling. So to put her mind at ease, he says, "Well, let's just set up a camera in the room, and when we go to sleep, we'll set the camera going, and nothing will come and get you in the night if there's a camera watching." Right? That was the logic, So they set this camera going. And a few days later, after this camera, every night the camera runs through the night. it's a security camera, so it's not designed to record footage and keep and spit out videos that you can keep or anything like that. But every morning they kind of watch the footage, nothing on it. It's just them asleep in bed, and they wipe the footage and then they do it again the following night, And over the next 3 nights, she does start to calm down. She likes the fact that the camera's there watching her when she drops off to sleep. It kind of puts her mind at ease. So that's great, and everything is doing its trick. After about 3 days, all of a sudden, she has this second experience, very, very different to the first, but again, some similarities. So it didn't start with any kind of UFO sighting or anything. She was just there. She was in bed. Again, she felt like she hadn't dropped off to sleep, but all of a sudden, she found herself no longer in a room. This time, it looked almost like a doctor's office. There were these kind of wood panel walls. There was a double door to her left. She was lying down on this kind of flattened bench type thing. She said she was unclothed, but this time there was a kind of thin, semi-translucent sort of sheet, and it was running over her, essentially covering most of her body up to the neck like that. And she's lying down, and she's fully paralyzed. Again, she senses the presence of the being up behind her left shoulder, right, the same one that she says was there from the first. So there's a direct link there with the first experience. And again, she can't see it, but she knows it's kind of there, watching over things. But to her right, she can see something. She sees a little doctor guy, real interesting chap. First of all, he was quite short. He looked sort of human. He had spectacles on. He had brushed back red hair. He was wearing kind of white doctor's clothing, exactly as a doctor, as you'd expect a doctor to dress. He's down there, but he looked short. He looked like child height. And this little chap was there, and she was lying down, and he put his hands out above her. He didn't touch her, but he put his hands down a couple of inches above her, and he started to move his hands down over her body and then speak with her telepathically. So he wasn't moving his lips when he spoke, but she heard a voice in her head, and he was telling her ailments that she had, either ailments that she had currently or ailments that she's had in the past. So he moved down over her stomach and said, I used to have a stomach ulcer there, but it's healed up. And this is something she could hear this in her head. So some kind of body scan type thing was going on without him physically touching her. And she was very worried he was going to sort of say something like, you've got cancer or something like that, but didn't say that. He performs this body scan type thing, whatever it was. And the experience ends, bang, she's back in the bed again. Again, she's like, whoa, what was that? Really weird. And she's lying there trying to kind of make sense of it. Now, she knew that her husband, he wouldn't really believe it. Again, he kind of put it down to a nightmare, so she didn't sort of tell him. She didn't tell him at the time during the night. She just kind of lay there a while awake and then eventually settled back down. A lot of people will be like, how could you settle back down after that? But it's a very strange thing. Having these experiences, people act in very, very unusual ways, But of course, the camera's been going, hasn't it? So during that second experience, they've had a camera running, So in the morning, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to go and check the footage, aren't you? You're going to be like, okay.
100%.
Right,
Straight on it.
So they're watching through this footage, right? And we'll put it on in a second. They're watching through this footage. And it gets about 3:33 a.m., which you'll see on the thing. And whether that's significant or not, I don't know. There's kind of numeracy elements to some of these cases, but you could say it's just confirmation bias, right? But it's 3:33 in the morning, and all of a sudden, something starts to happen on the footage. We can show the footage now, and I'll talk you through because the footage is silent. The camera didn't record video with it. Okay, so before you start it, right, what you're looking at here, this is the bedroom. I saw this in daylight and everything. Saw the bed. It's a normal double bed, by the way. It's not like two beds put together. It's two single beds. I kind of wish I'd taken a photograph of the bed in daylight so I could prove that. I didn't at the time because I didn't know all the questions that were going to come from this. To the left of that picture, is a husband, right? You can't really see him because it's kind of in shadow. This white lump in the middle is her lying in bed, okay? It's very low quality. Now, part of the reason for the low quality, how low quality is we couldn't work out how to extract it from the camera, because it's a security camera, and it was a very, very weird file type, that wasn't meant to be kind of viewed and extracted. I ran it through a number of different pieces of software to try to kind of get the raw footage out, but I couldn't, even with software that said it could handle that file type, didn't work with it, In the end, an American TV company did manage to kind of extract the footage, but the extracted footage was their property because they're the ones that done the extraction. So I managed, I got to see the extracted footage later on, and essentially it was a bit less kind of grainy than this, but it didn't really kind of clear anything up right. It was about the same. So down the bottom you can see there the date. Oh, sorry, I got the year wrong. I said 2009, didn't I? Okay, it's 2010. Sorry, 2000. So,
right.
Yeah, early 2011 was when I investigated the case, and it was the end. So you can see 9th of December 2010. Okay, and you can see there 3:33 a.m. is just about to turn to 3:34. And let's have if you hit play now, let's have a look what happens. Okay.
Yeah. There we go.
Oh, there you go. So it clears up when it's kind of moving. This is recorded off a monitor, okay, which is so they couldn't work out how to extract it. And that lump is her. We think maybe she's lying sideways. It's quite hard to tell, yeah. The white pointer light is a lamp at the back of the room. There's kind of the cameras reflecting off at the infrared, and they've got a sloped kind of diagonal ceiling, which is that line you can see on the right, and then a kind of closed window at the back of the room. Here she goes. So she's doing this weird thing where she seems to kind of. It's almost like she's arcing her back right upwards, like really weird. Like no idea if she didn't remember doing that or anything. Yeah, it's just kind of right up. There she goes, bang, boom.
Yeah, that's mad. I remember watching this.
Yeah.
And it's like, where's she gone?
Yeah.
And I think
is she gone?
She's gone.
So
I remember watching this. And it was on a program called Fact or Fake.
Right, see the camera at the bottom. Sorry. Well, 1 second, I want to explain what's going on here. Right, they fast forwarded the footage now. Yeah, it's 14 minutes later. There's no movement in that footage. I've checked out the raw footage right the way through. There's no movement. They moved it forward to a bit of the footage where stuff starts happening again. Yeah, so it's kind of dead still on the right. Yeah, there's a tiny bit of movement down the bottom, about 1 second after she goes. Yeah. It could be kind of the bed sheets folding in. Some people are like, oh, that's her foot. She's still there and this sort of thing. And her husband, you still can't really see him and everything, but you can see how flat this gone there. Really, really bizarre. And in a minute, you'll see what happens. Okay, so they sort of mistimed it a little bit, but you can see how kind of still the bed is there, and she still appears to be nowhere in sight. Yeah. And here she goes. Boom.
Stop.
I know. Right.
Because this is a husband rolling over now. He's been disturbed in his sleep and he's rolled over. He's actually naked there, but luckily it's dark enough not to see his naked backside there on the camera. So that's the footage, yeah. Now that happened the same night as she had this experience, this abduction experience. Yeah. And there's more to this story, yeah. We'll get to the regression in a minute. So
can I just tell you this bit quickly?
Oh, sure, yeah, go for it, man.
Yeah, sorry. So I remember watching this on a program called Fact or Fake, and they choose. They all have a story. And they choose which one. So they tried to recreate this and debunk it, and they got a bed, and they had a trap door in it with a springboard to try and do it. They couldn't even, with all these guys that do special effects for movies and all that work there, and like anyone and everyone.
Yes.
They could not get it to do that.
Yeah.
If they did, they would have had to get a new bed. It would cost them like tens of thousands of pounds to get all this equipment set up just for that 10-15 minute video. Absolutely. It would not have been worth it.
I don't think I'm over that.
No way.
It's interesting, very interesting. So it's on the Birmingham. If anyone wants to view the footage, the footage is embedded inside the case report of this case. It's on the Birmingham UFO Group website with a kind of full analysis and breakdown second by second, and also it's on our YouTube channel, the Birmingham UFO Group YouTube channel. It's on there as well. Yeah. Cool. Now, so what does the footage show? Okay, so clearly it appears that she's vanished from the bed. It appears that she's gone, right? So first of all, absolutely, it's not a hoax. Okay, it's not. I can tell you, as the investigator of this case, and I know this because I spoke with the family in great depth. Yeah, they are not pulling a fast one with this. They're not trying to release fake footage. The lady was genuinely upset by this footage. Yeah, and she was upset. Yeah.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
Isn't it?
That's like one of the best things I've ever seen.
It's crazy.
It's interesting alone, but obviously the video on its own, if you put that out there, people are like, "Oh, it's a fake." I've had lots of people sort of say, "Oh, she slipped down between the kind of gap in the bed." As I said, it's not a. There's Nath is from Uprising Group. So. Yeah, it's not. It's a normal double bed. Okay, it's not two single beds that she's rolled down into. They weren't using inflatables or trying to fake it. Yeah, and I know this because I spoke with them in great depth. The lady was genuinely shocked and upset by that video footage because it proved to her, or seemingly proved to her, that something genuinely had happened. She didn't want this. Yeah, she didn't want this to be true. Yeah, she wanted it to be just a nightmare and nothing more. But this video happening on the same night. Now, I have seen a kind of a recreation of this that was done by a particular skeptic, and he did a kind of pretty much a kind of quite a convincing job of it. Yeah, but he was quite a sort of slender chap. Yeah. And he kind of lay down very, very, on the bed and made it look like it kind of sunk in. But I don't want to be rude. Yeah, she was quite a big lady. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but she was, and it would have been very, very hard for somebody of her size to seemingly do what you see on the footage. Yeah. Now, also other aspects pointing towards it potentially being real. The length of time she's gone for is 14 minutes, right? Now, what she described with her experience was about that sort of time length. It wasn't like something that lasted for hours and hours and hours and she'd been taken around a craft and, gone away to another planet or anything like that. Nor was it something that was like a few seconds, like a minute or something like that. It seemed to correspond, like the amount of time she's gone for seemed to correspond with what you see on the footage, and what she remembers from the experience, So that's an interesting one. Another thing is that she has as I said, she had a bad back, and she said if she'd made all those maneuvers, she would have jumped up. If she kind of tried to purposely move herself into a position and kind of fake this, she said it would have set her back off, and she would have kind of jumped up in pain.
I don't like how she kind of does that weird. She arches her back first.
Very odd indeed. Yeah,
and she starts off like here, and then drops down again.
I bet she's really high up in the air. Yeah, it's really strange. And then kind of seemed to sort of settle back down on her. Now, if this is an abduction caught on camera, and I'm not saying it definitely is, it could be a very weird optical illusion that just happens to happened to be happening on the same night as this experience, right? Okay, you've always got to entertain that as a possibility. But let's say this has happened. Well, it's clear that she didn't kind of get lifted off the bed physically and taken through a wall or ceiling. Now, I've dealt with many people who've experienced that and have talked about it, about being lifted physically across their room, floated through a window, through the ceiling or whatever. There's usually a waiting craft outside. They'll float it through it. I've spoken with people who've got actual vertigo, have got an ongoing phobia and have got vertigo from their contact experiences of looking down and seeing the ground miles below them and that sort of thing. Other people who are scared of elevators for the same thing, that kind of feeling of going up, has left them with a phobia of elevators because of that sensation. Now, you know that these things are real when they lead to lasting phobias like that. We've all had nightmares, right? What nightmares lead to like lifelong phobias of things? Very, very rare. These are all points that point towards something real going on with the contact phenomena, something physically happening. I'm not saying that all abductions are physical, by the way. I've dealt with cases of what's known as a metaphysical abduction, where the person hasn't gone as such. There have been other people, and they've said you didn't go anywhere, but they've had an experience and they've seen beings like greys or whatever, and they've been aboard craft, or at least they think they're aboard craft, and it's almost like an out-of-body experience, where a part of them has left their physical self or whatever. I don't want to get too metaphysical with this stuff, but there is a lot of esoteric elements to the contact phenomena, and it's and for that reason, many researchers choose to kind of separate it from the UFO subject. They're like, oh, these are solid nuts and bolts craft flying around our skies, and this across here, this is a completely separate thing, the abduction phenomena. Nothing to do with UFOs. It's a separate thing. It's not at all. It's completely linked. As I said, that first experience, it began with a UFO sighting, and many contact experiences have that element where people see a craft, sometimes literally remember being taken up into it. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes the travel is kind of blacked out. It happens so often, it's been termed travel amnesia. So it's been given its own term because of the amount of time that people are they see themselves in their room and weird stuff going on. Next thing they know, they're elsewhere, and they don't remember the travel. But it doesn't always happen. There are no set rules to this, So I've dealt with cases where people are like, "Oh, you're always paralyzed when they take you, aren't you?" No, absolutely not. I've dealt with numerous cases where people have got full body movement and have got up and walked around, and maybe that's done on a trust level. There's many aspects to this subject, and we could talk forever. I can talk forever on this subject. Back to the case. Let's go back to the case. So, where do we go from here? So we've got these 2 abduction experiences, and we've got. So she wanted to look at these in more depth. Now I work with a regressive hypnotherapist. The regressive hypnotherapist I currently work with is not the hypnotherapist I was with back in 2010, but but the regressive hypnotherapist I was working with back then, now I'm sadly retired from that profession. We went out to her house and he performed a regression on her. Now, I've sat in on about sort of 15 or so regressions over the years, and I believe that in some circumstances they can be used to retrieve lost memories or retrieve additional memories back. Very, very controversial subject because it's been scientifically proven that you can implant false memories in a hypnotic state. But that's not what the regression hypnotherapist does. They don't lead them or anything. They just ask them what happened next. Tell me what happened next. They don't kind of say, "Oh yeah, those little grey guys you were with," or anything like that, where they that would be leading them down the route of them seeing alien beings. They don't do that, and I make absolutely sure that the hypnotherapists that I work with don't do that. So it all comes from them. So what do? We took the regressive hypnotherapist around there, and he regressed her, and we took her back to these 2 experiences. Now, don't forget, a lot of this is conscious. Everything I shared with you there, that was her conscious memories of those experiences. It wasn't like it was all blocked out, and that all came from the hypnosis. She knew that anyway. But we took it back to see if any further memories came through from going over those experiences. And what happened is that most of the experiences were the same, but we believe that she broke through what's known as a screen memory in a couple of occasions with those. So a screen memory, for those who don't know, for any of the listeners who don't know, is where the beings primarily seems to be the greys, but I've dealt with cases where other types or species have also done this. It's in to mask their appearance with something else, and they can appear as many different things. They can appear as an animal. They can appear as something that's that the person's interested in, maybe a cartoon character from their childhood, a family member or a friend, maybe Santa Claus, all sorts of different things. And but in this case, with that first experience, when we went back through it, I talked about the glowing door with a sun standing in the door. Except that it wasn't her son. So under hypnosis, with no prompting, she didn't describe her son. What she described was a being, a very slender, grey-like being, had teardrop-shaped eyes. She said it looked friendly. Doesn't know why she got that emotion from it. It was very tall and slender, almost skeletal. And when she came out of that hypnosis, we got her to draw it. So we've got a drawing of what it looked like, what she was seeing under hypnosis. Now, hypnosis is known to sometimes break past these so-called screen memories, and people see the beings in their true form. So that was what was going on with that, So maybe it was because her son was tall and the being was tall, and maybe that's why it all depends on your views on screen memories and whether you believe they are induced on purpose by the beings, or whether you think it's something that's going on with the brain, and maybe it's an association thing, and because it's tall, she's kind of implanted a son over it, maybe. But I mean, we could start delving into screen memories in more depth if you want, but either way, that was the only difference with that particular abduction experience. Let's move forward to the other one, the second experience. So the little doctor chap, So of course we were very interested in him because we suspected that was a screen memory because of the shortness of him and what he was doing. It quite clearly wasn't human because, as far as I'm aware, humans can't do that. Maybe some people claim to be able to do that, but anyway. So we wanted to explore that, and the hypnotherapist, he asks her describe his face to her, and she literally says it's like a mask. It's like it wants to fall off. Those are the actual words she said.
Oh.
So what that was, was her mind breaking past the visage of this thing was putting on.
Yeah.
Doctor, yeah. And she was literally knew that it wasn't its real face, and she was like a mask, yeah. And she was sort of seeing, she knew it wasn't its real face. And that's what
a bit uncanny valley.
Yeah.
Very uncanny valley.
Absolutely. And then we start talking about the hands and describe the hands. And at first she says, "Are they human hands?" Yeah. And then she says, she corrects herself and she's like, "No, they're not." She said the fingers are too long and too pointed. So again, it was like her mind was breaking past in that hypnotic state, was breaking past, and it was very likely that this being was a grey. She never saw it as a grey, but given the short height and the fact that there'd been greys in a previous experience, it stands to reason that it was probably a grey. So that was kind of very, very interesting and very telling, those aspects of it. The fact, again, pointed towards this being a genuine abduction case because of those elements. It had screen memory elements to it, which I've seen time and time again before with other cases, completely unrelated cases. So yeah, really, really interesting. In going back to her older experiences, she'd had previous encounters, previous abductions, one in childhood alongside her brother, where they'd walked out onto this field in the middle of the night, and she had memories of being taken up into this craft. But these memories were, she kind of blocked them out. There's also a psychic element that you get with contact. So you've probably again seen that in other experiences. You may have even spoken with experiences who pertain to having psychic type abilities. So in over half the contact cases I've dealt with, the last time I did a count, it came out at about 55%. So 55% of the cases I've dealt with claimed to have one or more psychic type abilities. Yeah, a lot of the time they were talking about seeing premonitions of future events, not always big things like car accidents or things like that, but sometimes random things like somebody walking down a road, their friend, and then it happened after, some months afterwards, and they're like, "I know I saw that before." Again and again, people have mentioned these elements when I speak with people who've had abduction experiences. A lot of the time, it does not surprise me at all if they say, "I've got some kind of sixth sense type abilities. I can see the spirit world, or I can sense people's emotions at a heightened level," that sort of thing. Now, again, the lady involved in the Droitwich case, she had that, and she didn't even know what I was looking for at all. I was a complete stranger to her. When we went back through her childhood experiences, she was talking about having numerous occasions where she'd be able to tell what was written down on a piece of paper. And they used to do this party game where her dad would draw an animal, a random animal, and fold it up, and she'd be able to tell the people at the party what the animal was on the piece of paper.
Yep.
So
we've
again,
tried that. Doesn't work. It really doesn't work.
Gotta go with more obvious animals, like it's a dog, right? They're drawing a dog. No, I don't know exactly which animals he drew, but again, she was talking about having this kind of psychic element. So, as I said, a lot of people focus on the video element of this. Yeah, the video element is very interesting. I'll give it that. Yeah, it's the only the only contact case I've ever dealt with where there's this kind of video footage element. Now, a lot of people are like, okay, if contact's real, if all these abductions are going on all the time, how come there's not loads of videos? How come we all got smartphones, right? How come people aren't just filming them and filming the aliens in their room, or approaching them, or even taking it aboard the ship and filming it while they're aboard? Now, there's multiple reasons for that, but one of the main reasons for it is what I discussed at the start of the first experience. When the individual is undergoing contact, they act in a completely altered state of mind. And the last thing on their mind is grabbing a camera and taking a little snap. Now, that's probably done intentionally. I mean, you can different views on it, right? But some people would be like, okay, they're trying to remain covert, so they do that intentionally, so the person doesn't ask questions. And a lot of the time, when after the experience, they think back to it and they're like, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I ask questions? Why didn't I grab my phone and take a photo?
Yeah.
Again and again. And it doesn't just happen with contact. I've had cases where UFO sightings, where people who've got an interest in the subject, so they're like desperate to see a UFO, right? And then they do, and they've got a camera on them, and they don't take a photo or a video.
Nope.
And afterwards they're like, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I take a photo? And this is why there's very few cases, even today, that have photographic or video evidence. So It's not very often. I deal with cases all the time. Yeah, a lot of the time off regular civilians seeing things, and most of the time there's a smartphone either on them or in the local vicinity somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
And it's about less than 5% of the cases I deal with have any kind of form of video or photographic evidence, because people are too busy in the moment to be watching what's going on.
But most of the things I've encountered, I've had a phone in my hand, not even considered taking a photo.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you fight or flight. Your fight or flight is an innate thing, isn't it? So your innate sort of self, I don't know how to describe that, but it doesn't think, oh, I'll get my phone. Like, your fight or flight is something that's sort of built within you, within you, isn't it? So it's not it's not programmed to think about modern day things. It just wants to run or be shocked. Or,
a lot of the time, people are like, when they see something, they're just awestruck by it. They're like, "Wow, what is that? Oh my god!"
Yeah.
And they're watching.
You're in the, like you said, you're in the moment.
In the zone. Yeah, totally. Yeah. And then also sometimes, they don't think it's not at the top of their list of things to do. Right? They're having an experience. It's for them. Yeah, it's personal for them. They're seeing something. Yeah, they don't think, "Oh, I better get the video footage to prove this took place." To help out that ufologist, Dave, so I can send you the footage. So then he's got some evidence. That's not at the top of their list of priorities. You know, they're in the moment. They're seeing the thing. And afterwards, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I wish I'd taken video of it." And then you've got the really weird cases. Yeah, you got the really weird cases where their phone drains the batteries at that exact moment. I've even dealt with cases where they've actually tried to film it and nothing's come out on the footage, and they're like, and they swear to me, and they send me the footage, and they're like, "I know it's not there on the camera, but I was seeing it with my naked eye." But on the camera, it's not there. Read into that what you will.
I've had cases like that where we're out investigating, spirits and the paranormal, and there's all kinds of stuff happening. But the second you take your phone out, it stops.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really interesting. And also, you've got the aspect where time and time again these things will vanish right when somebody isn't looking at them. So they'll be staring at it for minutes at a time, and they look away for 2 seconds, and when they look back, it's not there again and again and again, Or even they're going to grab the camera, and it's almost like it's almost like the occupants of the object, Let's say it's a genuine craft, with beings aboard. They may well be aware that they're being looked at, that they're being witnessed, and they might use that opportunity to get out of there when they don't look, or when they go to grab the camera, they're like, "Oh, we're about to be filmed here, better do a fast one to get out of here." It makes sense.
That reminds me.
Totally makes sense.
Reminds me of have you ever locked eyes with a spider? Have you seen its behavior? Have you ever looked at? I know that sounds crazy, right?
I haven't looked at a spider for that long.
I'm going to try now.
Honestly, right? They clock you. They know you, right? It reminds me of that when you've said that. So if you've got like a big spider that's running across your living room, it will know that you're looking. It'll know that you've seen it. It will recognize. I don't know how, right? It stays there,
and it'll stop there.
As soon as you move or look away, it's rapid. It does. It does.
Oh.
It blows me out every time. It knows. It knows you're watching it. I know it's funny to
no, I just going to be
consciously.
Kind of senses.
Consciously, I have. Now you've said it.
Yeah. I've seen him do that, but usually my wife's too busy screaming.
Not to compare them to like spiders.
She's not the biggest fan.
I know what you mean.
To be fair, I don't like, those big ones in wintertime, the big scuttlers. Ones
with beaks on.
I've got arachnophobia, but I don't think many people actually like that. And they come suddenly running across the living room towards you.
No, give that a miss.
Just that's when you said it.
So that's a small overview. Now, what we've gone over there with the Droitwich case, is about 1/10 of her experiences.
Wow.
So she's had experiences both before it and after it, I believe
can I just bring a question in then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, sorry, things in the way. So this is from Elaine. She's put, has she ever thought she'd been abducted before these two cases?
So about 5 minutes ago, I mentioned the childhood case that she had where she remembers vividly being out in a field, walking out in the nighttime. She remembers her and a younger brother walking out to this field. She doesn't know why. She went out to this field. It was in the vicinity of their house, different location, different house. When she was growing up, and there was a craft. She remembers a large kind of saucer-shaped craft above them, light shining down. she believes they got taken up into that. She has memories of a mantid type being. For those who don't know what that is, the very insectoid-looking ones that kind of remind people of praying mantis insects, hence the name. And she drew a picture that even had a couple of antennas, this one at the top of the head, but very very large eyes. So she had those memories, and there was a bit of interesting evidence kind of pointing towards this happened. Now, I don't have the direct evidence for this, but again, it's based on testimony. A lot of the time, these cases are based on testimony, right? But she remembered being told off by her mother the following morning because they'd walked in mud from the field. So they'd gone down there in their pajamas or whatever, and they'd walked back and they brought in mud from outside. Yeah. And she remembers her mother telling her and her brother off about traipsing mud in here, not realizing what that meant. Yeah, and what that meant is that they had actually walked out the house in the middle of the night. Yeah. So it was evidence pointing towards it being a real thing rather than just some sort of weird dream about going out there and seeing this craft. So really interesting. Obviously, I don't have the proof for that. Didn't have photographs of the mud in a child or anything like that, But it was an aspect, and I learned to trust this lady implicably. Yeah. As I said, I spoke with the family, her and the family, for many hours, and I can absolutely vouch for her authenticity.
Yeah, thank you. Another quick question is from Sober Carper. He's asking, how long did you investigate the disappearing lady, and does she still get taken?
Okay, so so the investigation itself lasted for a couple of months. Really, there was numerous visits across the house, just collecting all the evidence, going back into her older experiences. As I said, she kind of pushed them to the back of her mind. The two experiences that happened towards the end of the year that we went over, they were what's known as a trigger experience for her, or trigger experiences, if you will. Essentially, it was those that got her to readdress things that had happened earlier in her life and start to treat those things more seriously. Right. And it was only then that she started to realize that she'd had all this stuff happen before earlier in her life that she just put to one side. She did continue to have experiences, so I kept in touch with her. I still talk with her occasionally. She actually moved house and moved away. Doesn't actually live in the UK anymore, but I still speak with her from time to time. The last time I spoke with her, she said that her experiences had died down. She did have a number of other experiences in the kind of following couple of years after what had happened. Numerous things. One of them even involving what could have been potentially a military abduction known as a MyLab. Her and her oldest daughter both remembered seeing a human soldier of some kind in a uniform standing inside their house in one of these experiences. Now, it's interesting that it was her older daughter who remembered that as well, because if you remember, it was her older daughter who was kneeling down next to her at the start of the first experience. So again, there's that link there. It's kind of not her younger daughter, but the older daughter seems to be involved. Now, you might ask, why didn't I go and interview the older daughter in depth about this to find out her memories? And essentially, the lady involved in this case, she didn't want to spook her daughter out. She said her daughter hadn't mentioned it, so perhaps the memories had been completely blocked out from her head or whatever. She didn't want to go there or me to start asking questions about what may or may not have happened, because she didn't want to frighten her unnecessarily, which is absolutely fine. And I fully agreed with that and honoured that. So I never got to speak with her daughter directly. I met her daughter at the house numerous times. But I never spoke with her about these experiences or about what she remembered from them, because we didn't want it to trigger potentially terrifying memories for her.
Thank you. We've got a couple more questions. Do you want to do them, Nicole?
Sure.
Is that all right?
So the first one is from Og. Where would you consider to be the most active place you have been, Dave?
Probably be like the two places that we previously mentioned, ironically. So as I said, Warminster, where I had my own experience down in Wiltshire. I've spoken with numerous people over the years who've had some very, very good UFO experiences down there. Very impressive stuff. So there was one particular case I remember somebody telling me about, where it was 4 cherry red orbs that flew towards them in a line, and then 2 went that way and 2 went that way, and they shot off. either direction. Both the appearance and the maneuvering capabilities shows that was not normal aircraft or red LED balloons or anything like that. Yeah, so that's a modern case that was much more recent than the Warminster flap. Yeah, so that area is known for activity. What can I say? I had a UFO sighting down there on a UFO Skywatch. You know, I mean, what more proof do you need from that one? But then Bonnie Bridge as well is another known place. Cannock Chase has had quite a bit of stuff. So some of the locations we've happened to have mentioned today are kind of known as areas of high activity. Again, Wrensham Forest mentioned that, didn't we? So as I said, numerous people have seen things down there, not just orbs of light like yourself, Andy, but also ghost type phenomena. I've spoken with people who've had
I seen a World War II German soldier, didn't realise at the time until I checked the uniform on the internet when I got back. Only lasted a few seconds.
Wow.
But it was the felt grey uniform. And I checked, and it was like identical. I'm like,
proper apparition.
It proper knocked me back. So
that's interesting.
I do have an interest in the ghost phenomena as well. As with many people, when you get involved in one particular area of the paranormal, a lot of the time it kind of spreads out to a general interest in the mysteries of the world.
Everything.
You kind of realise that there's a lot more going on out there than science kind of wishes to entertain at this current point.
Yeah,
and
100%.
And the more you start looking into it, so I absolutely believe that the ghosts are also a real thing. Ghosts of different types, playbacks in time, some more that are kind of conscious and can interact with people directly. I've had ghost experiences myself, which I can go into if you want. I know it's kind of detracting away from UFOs, but we can talk about them. And also known numerous people over the years who've had some very, very compelling experiences. So it's interesting.
Thank you. Yeah,
there's a lot of as well with it as well, isn't there?
Oh yeah, it's just so many connections. It's like dot to dot, and then but then it'll move away from it and then come straight back round again.
I think it's all connected. It's just trying to piece those together, those connections, and what it all means, on a grand scale. It's very difficult. It's what makes this continuously interesting for me, because I'm always thinking, is the next case that I investigate going to be the one that blows the lid off a particular thing, a particular aspect of the phenomenon, and sort of proves it beyond doubt and that sort of thing. You keep looking, you're always looking for the evidence, but you've got to remain kind of level-headed with it and grounded. And many people I've spoke with over the years view me as quite a grounded researcher. So I'm not going to jump to conclusions and say, oh yeah, that was definitely an alien spacecraft. Yeah, there's lots of mundane things seeing all the time. And there's so many odd things up in the air that if you're not familiar with what you're looking at, can appear like something way more unusual.
Oh yeah,
and they'll blow it up in their mind, so they'll blow it up into something that it's not, And then sometimes you've got the video footage with it, and you go and look at the video footage, and it's nothing like as impressive as what they're describing. They're talking about like a mile-wide UFO, and it's just like quite obviously like a solar airship or a balloon or something. It's because when you see something with your eyes and everything, and especially if you want to see something like that, then you can sort of blow it up out of all proportions. And also you kind of get stuck with it definitely having to be something unusual. And there's been numerous times in the past where I've been at odds with people because I've kind of told them it's something mundane, like the aspects of it pointed towards a bunch of Chinese lanterns floating across the sky on an air current. And I've told them that, and they refuse to believe it. And they're like, oh, no, it was definitely spacecraft. And I'm like, okay, well, the facts
you just got to leave them to it. I think.
The
There's nothing else you can do.
Yeah, it's a wild world, and this stuff really genuinely is going on out there. But there's also a lot of mundane things that are seen regularly by people. And you have to,
I always say it would be great if everything was something.
Yeah,
like something like paranormal, shall we say?
But if everything's something, then nothing's something.
Yeah.
Don't confuse me.
No, you're absolutely right. You've got to remain realistic with it. I mean, I've spoken with many people over the years who are right down the rabbit hole, like so far down the rabbit hole, they're out the other side. Yeah, it's and if you get sucked into that, you end up believing that everything is a conspiracy and everything is paranormal, and it's not so. You've got to remain level-headed, and if you don't remain level-headed, the outside world, the skeptical world, who believe that this is all just imaginary or hoaxes or misidentifications, it gives them loads of ammunition, because they can be like, oh, these people are just screw loose. I think it's important to remain kind of intelligent with it and as scientific as possible. While at the same time, of course, it's very hard to be scientific with UFOs because the whole ethos of science is repeat testing things and having something there that you can physically test. Now, a lot of the time, as I said, we're dealing with testimonial evidence. Very occasionally, there's other aspects like the Droitwich case with the video, but most of the time, it's just based on trust. I'm being told something by somebody, and it's only through speaking with them over many hours, sometimes days. Some of the bigger cases that I've delved into where they've had numerous experiences, I've talked with them for so many conversations, and you've got to ask if they're not in it for the fame and fortune, like which. So a lot of the time they don't want their names or locations and that sort of thing going out in the case reports. Now, as soon as they do that, if they want their name changed, that shows that they're not in it for any kind of form of personal glory, doesn't it? Because if they were, they'd be wanting their name in highlights. Oh yeah, get me in all the papers and that sort of thing. You know, they want to be famous. Most of the witnesses I talk with don't want that at all. It's the other way around. They're very worried about getting found out about who they are because they're worried about the stigma of the subject and how it will affect them and how people will treat them after they find out that they've talked with somebody about UFOs, which is sad to say. And it still exists today, that stigma. It's getting better. It is getting better, but...
Yeah, it still happens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I had a couple more questions.
Yes.
This one is from Sober Carper. Have you ever investigated the Drake Low tunnels? And if so, did you encounter anything?
I have not. I've seen the Drake Low tunnels on numerous ghost investigation programs over the years, and I would love to go on an investigation there. It would be amazing. Obviously, moving into ghosts rather than I wouldn't go there to try to see aliens or UFOs or anything. But I would be very interested to go there on an investigation and potentially experience something paranormal. Certainly seems like a very interesting location. I don't know. Have any of you been to Drake Low or not?
No, it's another one that's on the list.
Yeah.
We're going to need to organise a road trip. Like,
let's just keep getting bigger and bigger.
I'm up for it. Yeah, just let us know. I'll be there.
I'll swing by and get you all on the way.
That's all right. Brilliant. At lunch.
At lunch. And a flask of hot chocolate.
Yep, there we go. Sorted. Day trip.
Yeah.
Sarah, you want to do this one?
Yeah. So, does your board game feature just famous encounters, or have you put some of your own into the game as well?
So, UFOWAVE mostly features aspects of the phenomena rather than physical known cases. But there's a lot of flavor text on the cards, and some of that flavor text points towards particular incidents. So there's the Roswell crash, but it's just like the general card is just a UFO crash, right? And it's because you're using craft cards in the game, you have to lose a craft card from your hand if that's pulled, the UFO crash card. So it's kind of like, oh no, you've lost the craft and it's gone down, and you have to get rid of it and discard it. So that's in general, but on that card is kind of the word hints towards the Roswell incident in 1947. Right. So there's some other big cases I mentioned in there. Travis Walton's abduction case is in there on one of the cards, or hints towards it in the wording. Again, you've got to know about the UFO subject to get that. If you weren't interested in the subject, you didn't know about Travis Walton's abduction case, you'd just be like, okay, it's a general card. It has no link to any actual incident. So I put in a few little tidbits there for people who are interested in the subject to keep people happy.
Cool. Right, and then last question is from Nathan Locklear, who I know you know. Question for everyone. Where do you believe UFOs come from? Are the ETs? Are they extra dimensional? Or is it something else?
Who's going to start?
Go on, Nicole. You've been quiet tonight.
I have no idea. Like, I believe they come from somewhere. A majority of them come from somewhere that's not here. But whether they're ETs or extra dimensional, I don't
know. I think they're us.
Yeah.
I think they are us. I think they're us. However many years from now. I just think they're us. I think it's ourselves. Yes. A very advanced, evolved version of us that are coming back. I don't know. I think they're probably. I always have thought that. I've always thought it's another whether something happened at some point. I feel like our current us here on this planet, I feel like we've been left behind. I always have thought that. I feel like we've been kind of people, they've, what's the word, neglected, just left to it for whatever reason, and the rest of our species or whatever has carried on, and we've been left, and they just come back every now and again to check on us for whatever reason. That's the only thing I say. Well, that's what I think. I think it's.
Yes,
I think we're just very advanced humans. I just think, there's no way for me. There's no way that we have not had direct, full-on evidence. There's no way. Look at the probability that we are the only ones here. There's no way that we have this. They don't want to contact us for whatever reason. There's no way that we haven't made direct, full-on contact by now. We've been thrown to the side, and they're watching us from afar.
Yes,
that's what I think.
I'm going to go with the safety of inner Earth. I think. I think that from here, they're not human, mate. Some are, whether they're back engineered or they've used their own technology to get them to the point of where they are. Whether it is nuts and bolts or organic matter, I don't think that is a big. It's not a big key issue because it's just progression through time as technology advances. There's different ways that they're built. But I believe that most of them are coming from whether inside the Earth or out the oceans.
Yes.
And I'm going to stick with that one until proven otherwise.
I think there's very likely that they've got bases potentially in the deep sea. It's in the perfect location to hide. It makes sense that if they're here for any kind of length of time, which they clearly are, that they may have bases of operation in very hidden away places, and we're better than the deep oceans. And of course, there's many USO sightings over the years where fishermen have seen things moving around under the water with glowing lights on and all sorts of stuff. There's some absolutely incredible cases on record, and I've dealt with some USO cases as well, personally, over the years.
There's so much of the ocean that's unexplored, and it's not like the everyday person can go and explore it either. So it's the perfect place to reside, isn't it? Like me and you couldn't just go down and decide.
Well, exactly.
Can I bring a conspiracy theory into this?
Go on.
So, with you saying not much of the ocean's been explored, I think it has, but we're not being told what is actually there.
Well, yes, yeah.
Because, the reason being, like you said, we can't just go down there and have a look.
Yeah.
We can to a point, but we can't go into the depths.
Not the everyday person, can they?
Yes.
Yeah.
A few meters, that's it. You're done.
So I think my own viewpoints on the origins before we get sidetracked. My thoughts are that it's likely a mix. There's quite obviously numerous different types or species. Now, some of them may have been designed and created by some of the other ones. Maybe they seem to be working together towards common agendas. I've dealt with many cases where people see multiple different types in the same experience, kind of sometimes watching over one another, sometimes interacting with one another directly. So there seems to be that some kind of agreement with that going on. As to exactly where they're from, I think there's certainly a lot of potential for them to come from elsewhere in our universe. Like they found us before we found them, and we're just starting to explore out into space, aren't we? We've gone to the moon. Well, some people don't believe that, but but many people believe that we've gone to the moon, right? And we're trying to kind of get to Mars and that sort of thing. Now, if let's say there were alien life forms on the moon when we went there, then we would have appeared to the aliens to them, and they would have, oh my God, UFOs in the sky, it would have been like that, So using that logic, there's so many planets out there. It's absolutely so vast. We don't know what sort of technology they've got or are capable of. Science is often like, it's too vast a distance, they couldn't possibly get here. But that's on our current understanding of science. These beings may be millions of years more advanced than us, and have cracked that interstellar travel thing. And once you crack that, sky's the limit, isn't it? Yeah. So I think there's a lot of elements pointing towards that. There's numerous contact cases that I've dealt with and other ones on record where people have been shown what appears to be star maps, sometimes on screens, or the beings have literally said directly, we're from this other planetary system, and have even shown them images, sometimes directly in their heads, of other planets. Now, the question is, does that definitely make them extraterrestrial? Or is that a lie coming from the beings themselves, and they're just saying that to cover up what they actually are? This is the complexity with it. You don't really know whether the beings are being openly honest when they say that about where they're actually from. There's a lot of extra dimensional aspects to the subject. Obviously, people being taken through solid walls, solid matter, beings emerging from light into their locality. So, and obviously craft as well appearing in a clear sky. And they could say, again, there's multiple explanations for that. So it could be some kind of cloaking where they're actually there, but outside the visible light spectrum. Yeah. But is it that they're not cloaking, but are literally moving through into another dimension of reality alongside our own? And maybe some of the beings are kind of coming through from there and then disappearing back into it. I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I think it's very much a likely mix of that. Maybe with even a bit of the time travel in there. I do find that very fascinating, the idea that they are from our future and maybe are us. Now, one of the species, the Nordics, of course, which I covered in UFOWAVE. I've covered most of the main types in UFOWAVE. They're very humanoid looking, incredibly humanoid looking. And many people describe them as just very, very beautiful humans. Some people I've dealt with who've had a religious kind of background have actually described them as angels, not aliens, and have treated it like a religious experience until I've shown them other pictures that people have drawn of Nordics. And then they've been like, yeah, that's them there. And then then they've seen the links with the contact phenomena and have gone looking into it, and they've actually changed their perception. And I don't ever kind of lead them down any particular route. I'm not like, oh yeah, you must believe they're alien, yeah, or anything like that. Yeah. They've literally started off with it being a religious experience for them, where they believe they were angels, to viewing them as an extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional life form after looking into the contact phenomena more. So there's all these different ideas for the origins, but I think the important thing is not to get too hung up on that, because the important thing is that it's real and that they are non-human to an extent, I suppose you could say, with the time traveling one, that maybe not they are as but there's still something going on with that. They're not manufactured here on Earth by, like, it's not some sort of worldwide military project that somehow there's been no whistleblowers of at all, that's going on all around the world, and they're making these things in labs and everything. There is so little evidence pointing towards that being the explanation for this subject. If somebody can prove that to me beyond the shadow of a doubt, and explain everything that's gone on with all these cases, I'm happy to change my opinion on the origin of them tomorrow, anytime, But as yet, I'm still waiting for that. Yeah, there's a lot more evidence pointing towards them being non-human in origin and being something entirely different that are interacting with us on a daily basis. Yeah.
Right. Thank you for that. We have hit the time, unfortunately.
Can we get this one last one?
Oh, sure.
Or Joe's going to kill you.
Oh, yeah.
What does Dave have in his face?
Yeah, I've got, so there's in the bottom one is a blue-tongued skink. Called Skeksis, named after the Dark Crystal Jim Henson movie. And in the top one is Pliskin, a snake, a corn snake. They've usually got bright lights on, but I've been on previous podcasts where people have literally complained about the brightness coming from the vivs. This time I've switched them off, so you can't see them.
That's cool.
And behind me on the wall over there, that's a stitched alien autopsy, believe it or not. Crocheted alien autopsy. I'm probably one of the only people on the planet to have a crocheted alien autopsy on their living room wall.
There you go, Nicole. She crochets ghosts and puts cat balls in them.
Now I need aliens.
Absolutely, yeah. Have a look for the pattern on it. You'll be able to track it down.
Yeah.
And of course, I'll find the pattern and send it.
Yeah.
There's a lovely model there. I got that one a number of years ago. The grey that you can see there behind me, absolutely stunning bust of a grey being. Again, based off actual experiences and their descriptions of the beings that they met. A small part of my collection. I've got cabinets full of alien models and things over there out of sight.
No, massive thank you for coming on. Hopefully you'll come back on it. hopefully you'll come back on again, because I don't think we've touched the surface, scratched the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's been so many incredible cases over the years that I've dealt with. There's been cases involving military, involving active and retired police officers. There's been cases involving crashes or landings of craft. The contact phenomena. So many incredible things.
You'll have to talk about your missing time again. That was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we can do a deep
I loved
delve into
hearing
missing time.
all the
Well,
Absolutely.
we've got a few Wednesdays empty, so if you want to come back on, just give me a shout, because I know you saying Wednesdays is better for you than the Friday.
Yeah, a lot of the time I'm busy on a Friday evening, but I'm happy to talk anytime.
Yeah, we'll sort something out, because there's only a couple of Wednesdays we've got booked, so it's all good.
Yeah, sure.
So thank you for coming on. Thank you, Nicole and Sarah, for joining tonight, especially Sarah, because she's been doing a Tommy.
Oh God, I know.
It's fine. Massive thank you, Dave. Really appreciate it. On Friday we have Eric and Bob, aka Paranormal Highway and Doctor Who. So they're coming on for a part 2. And then on the 9th, on Saturday, around about 6 p.m. UK time, doing the Global Skywatch. It's only going to be on for about an hour. And that's it until next week. And then we've got Lila Bright and Science Bob coming on Wednesday. But
before I go, can I talk about a couple of links for people and contact details?
Yeah, of course you can.
Is that right? Okay, so with Birmingham UFO Group, we've got a dedicated website, bufog.com, bufog.com. On that website, in the investigations section, you'll find literally hundreds of case reports that have been written by myself and the other 2 investigators of Birmingham UFO Group over the years. You can do searches on them for particular locations, particular dates, or even types of craft. Like if you type in triangle, all the triangular UFO cases will come up because I put those in the titles. So all the cases we've gone over this evening that I've mentioned, they're all in there. So if you want to see some of the cases, for example, the Droitwich case that we went into a bit, you can see the lady's other experiences inside that case report. It's very, very long. Grab a few cups of coffee for that one. But yeah, there's other things on the website. There's the probably the world's biggest collection of UFO themed music videos, believe it or not, is on the UFO website. Hundreds of music themed on UFOs and aliens on there, and trailers and other bits and bobs, all sorts of stuff to check out. On Facebook, we've got our organization page. You can like that. And if you live within the area of Birmingham or the Midlands, or you're happy to travel, we have monthly meetings. First Thursday of every month we meet up, and in most of those meetings we have speakers come and talk. We've got one tomorrow. Is it? Yeah, tomorrow we've got a BUFOG meeting. Graham Allen from Staffordshire UFO Group coming to talk about his experiences and things he's investigated over the years. So we sometimes also show documentaries and movies and that sort of thing. So you can get involved directly. If that's kind of outside of your range and you can't make it, even through travel or whatever, we've also got our community page, which is called BUFOG Truth Seekers, and that's where we meet up between meetings and just post links. And I kind of regularly update that with released case reports and other interesting information. So by all means, join that group. It's private, and it's an open space online where you can freely talk about UFOs and the paranormal in a kind of safe environment. Thanks for that.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's it. I'm also part of ISA, the International Coalition for Extraterrestrial Research. I'm the United Kingdom Deputy Representative for that. That's an international effort to raise awareness of the reality of the UFO subject to the wider public. And you can check out the website at isa.network if you want to see more on ISA and what's going on with that.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, Joe's putting all the links up for you.
UFOWAVE is on the slide, as well.
I was going to say, if you want to send me some, I can put them in the description on here.
Sure,
people can go through it.
UFOWAVE is no longer on Amazon at this current point. There's actually kind of a bit of a shelf life on Amazon for anybody who's sold on Amazon will realise. But there is a kind of section of UFOWAVE on the Birmingham UFO Group website, and if anybody wants a copy, just get in touch and I can send it out to you through the post. We can arrange it.
Excellent.
Or maybe at a conference, and I'll bring some along, probably.
Yes, yeah, definitely. You have to bring extra.
Oh, well, I'll bring enough this time, yeah.
Don't want to run out. Right, I'm going to have to end it now, unfortunately. But thank you again for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Love
really
listening to everything
Thank
you
you.
had to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was great.
So,
I always like listening to you.
Yeah, definitely. I think when I met you, we was chatting for a good hour at least.
Was it? Time gets away from you with this subject. Missing time. So missing time. No, it's true. Once you get stuck on this subject, it just kind of gets you, and it just takes you over and fascinates you endlessly. And I'm going to continue investigating this subject and trying to get the answers to what's going on with it all.
Yep. So, thank you, everyone. We'll see you on Friday, same time, with Dr. Wu and Eric. So, take care and goodbye.